conversation with educational leaders. My name is Mike Randolph, and I'm the proud principal here at the Leesburg High School. And I am joined by my friend, colleague, and someone who I grew up with in this educational field, Martin Aftuck, the proud principal of Middleburg High School in Clay County.
How we doing, Mike?
I am doing very well, sir. How's your summer going so far?
It's going. It's the 16th now, so we're looking at, or the 15th. So things are going to go quick. Only got a couple weeks. Got to make sure everyone's ready to go. So we're there.
Absolutely. So before we dive in too far, I want you to give us a background or just talk a little bit about what is Talking Shop? What is this podcast and what's the goal of this podcast?
So I think Mike and I have talked about this for a little while. And for us, it's sharing those stories of your journey, your why, where you're at as an educational leader. We've got a pretty good list of guests we want to bring on. Today, we're going to kind of focus on each other and then expand from there. But Talking Shop, Talking Shop is like whenever my wife and I, we go to hang out with a bunch of other administrators, that's what she says, oh, you guys are just going to talk shop. And that's what we do. So why not take it and be able to build off it and help each other and help other leaders and grow. Mike's someone who I've learned a lot from, and I'm excited to take this journey with him.
Absolutely. So again, we're just creating a space for educational leaders to come together and share best practices, right, on a podcast forum. So we're excited to start this journey. So let's go ahead and kind of dive into this first episode. It'll be cool just to bounce some ideas back and forth.
I agree. Hey, before we start, let's give a shout out to my good friend, Noah Wyatt.
Oh, yes. Shout out.
Noah Wyatt Visuals, creating our really cool podcast logo.
Yeah, so, shout out Noah.
Great job, Noah. If you have anything, check him out on Instagram. If you have any digital design needs, he is the man. He does all our graphics at Middleburg High, like our Come to the Berg t-shirt, our Berg t-shirt, nice. All our stuff. He's the man. So we appreciate him.
Listen, Mike, tell me, rocking my softball jersey and pinstripes
I love
today,
it.
like the
I
Yankees.
love it. Pinstripes. Tell me about your educational journey. How did you become a principal?
Absolutely. So my degree in the background does not say education on it. I started as an English language and literature major. And when I graduated from the University of Maryland, I was actually moving down to Florida, and I was going to go to law school, but I wanted to take a gap year before I went into law school. So during that gap year, I said, what can I do with an English language and literature degree? And I knew that I wanted to coach as well. So I said, let me try to become a teacher. So, started the interviewing process, became an English teacher during my first year in Middleburg High School.
Awesome.
Yes, Middleburg High School in 2008. So, yes, Superintendent David Broski gave me a chance. I think he might regret it at times, but no. Started off, absolutely loved teaching and coaching, and really found out that great coaches make great teachers and vice versa as well. And I felt like I had a gift in both of those arenas. So at the end of the year, while talking to a few of my mentors, they kind of gave me the option. They said, Mike, I know that you're looking at going to law school, but you're not bad in education. Why not try to, pursue this route long term? And from there, it snowballed. So, I was very fortunate, I taught for 3.5 years at Middleburg and then at Oakleaf, and then very fortunate to have the opportunity to go into administration, and really just in the right place at the right time and fit a good need. But it did cost me my opportunity to continue coaching football. So I joke with everyone, I do have my retirement plan already in place. In 14 years, I will retire and set myself up as an English teacher and the head football coach wherever I am. So that's how I'm going to go out.
I'll keep you in mind later on in life here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But yeah, that's my journey. So talk to me a little bit about your journey and how you got into administration.
So I had really good teachers and mentors in high school that I looked up to. I had a pipe dream. I thought I was going to be a doctor pre-med. That lasted the first semester. It's a running joke in my family, but first semester of chemistry, getting a D, maybe it was time to move on to something else. But I always had a love for coaching and sports, and then a love for history. So long story short, became a U.S. history, a social science education major. Got lucky up here, interned at Twin Lakes Academy Middle School in Jacksonville. One of my the people I worked with they won the lottery. Like they literally won like the $40 million crazy lottery. So yeah, she was interning at Lakeside Junior High.
Uh-huh.
And then I ended up, she's like, you need to check out this job. Went over and interviewed, got the position, first interview, first job, teaching gifted social studies for a few years there. Really enjoyed it. Got a love for baseball, got more involved in baseball, and ended up at Orange Park High School for a few years there. Long story short, became the athletic director. Worked with Treasure Pickett, just a phenomenal leader who kind of
Yes, I
helped
had
me
the
along this
opportunity to
path
work
today.
with Treasure as well in
Yeah,
Oakley.
there's a lot of principals that work with Treasure Pickett, and there's a reason. She's awesome. So, anyways, long story short, I ended up at Bannerman Learning Center, which is the alternative school in Clay County. I was an assistant principal there for a couple of years, cup of coffee at Oak Leaf High as the assistant principal, and then ended up principal at Middleburg, actually principal at Bannerman for 2 years. Pandemic, and ended up with me at Middleburg High School, and that's kind of where we're here. It wasn't anything like I
Fantastic.
was like, man, I can't wait to be a principal. It was just one of those deals where, like you said, right place, right time, and I think we were put on this earth to do this. So
Exactly. And
everything.
again, both have that coaching background too. So, as I said, sometimes the best coaches make the best teachers, and the best teachers make the best coaches as well.
We talk about that in our pre-planning. Like one of the things, and I'm sure you have the same thing, where you want to go into a classroom and see the kids doing the work, doing the practice. It's like the comparison I make is Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence. Like at the end of practice, Doug Peterson's not doing everything. He hasn't gone run every single drill, made every throw. Like the kids should be doing the work. Trevor Lawrence should be doing the work. So that's kind of a comparison we make. I think good coach. There's plenty of good coaches out there that have never coached a sport. I can name several of my English teachers, math teachers. That it's all coaching. That's what it all comes down to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So talk to me about what the summer looks like for a principal. What do you do during these 2 months or when the school shuts down?
2 months goes by very quickly, my friend. It feels
Yes,
like
it
we were talking about
does.
this at the end of May and in June, and then man, it's already July 15th. We got two
It's
weeks till we
wild.
got kids back on campus with sports, kids back on campus, and then the 3 weeks before we got teachers back and ready to roll. So in the summer, number one for a principal is getting all your hiring done, and that's kind of a nerve wracking deal this time of year because most of you've made all your first round draft pick hires more towards it in May, and then
Oh,
you're
anyone that comes in
always the
now.
worry that somebody's going to come in with their keys
Yes.
and tell you they're going somewhere else. But it kind of roll the punches with the business. And then for me, this is my 5th year going into Middleburg High, so we've kind of have a real good idea of what we want our pre-planning to look like and what we want, how we want it to look. We go through all our training this summer, do a couple conferences, and then man, we're back at it. Best part of the summer is when it finishes and you get those kids back on campus, those teachers back on campus, ready to roll into the next school year.
Doing this for. Yes, that's exactly what we're doing this for, is to get those kids back on campus. So this is my 8th year as the proud principal of Leesburg High School, and it's crazy to think what happened in 2017 compared to now. So I started in July of 2017, and when we started, I still had 33 hires to make in July. So you want to talk about, just trying to fill your staff and, pick a team to go into the season. We were literally at crunch time trying to do that. Fast forward 8 years, we were very blessed to have a 90% retention rate this year. So we are fully staffed at this point. But like you said, you're always nervous anytime you get a phone call. So
Absolutely.
one of my teachers called me earlier and I kind of picked up hesitantly. And she said, Mr. Randolph, it's okay. I'm not leaving. I'm just letting you know that that I'm about to attend this conference. So I was like, absolutely. That's outstanding. Go ahead and do that. Please send me the bill.
I got
So,
like teachers posting stuff on Facebook. You see it as like like a cryptic message or something. It's just nerve wracking
yes.
this time of year. But I think it's part of the fun. There is a lot of change in education. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces. You're not only managing a school and the curriculum, you're also managing a set of people. So operationally, you have to do all
Absolutely.
those things and get ready in the summer for the start of the school year. We're lucky we don't have a lot of construction taking place. The last couple of years, we had a cafeteria that got an annex that was added. We had, they were working on the roof, doing all kinds of crazy things. Now we got a few bathrooms are getting ready to go, and I know some other places. It's nerve wracking when you see all that construction taking place, and you're gonna have kids on campus in a couple of weeks. How about you guys?
Absolutely.
Any big summer
Right
projects?
now, yeah, right now, the big summer project is we're getting new lighting in our stadium. So, although that is exciting to have the LED lighting, that is a little nerve wracking this time, when it's July. So, they have assured me that the lights would be done by July 19th. So, I'm holding them to that. So, they have until this week. I know all of the old light poles are done. Are down, so that's exciting. But outside of that, same thing, just making sure that we strategically schedule our students into the right places, not only for graduation, but to make sure that they are taking advantage of every opportunity to accelerate or remediate their learning as well. So, we're trying to use the data to be very intentional, as we have in the past, but this year we're very fortunate to have that data earlier. So we're being very intentional with that. So, my AP over curriculum and master scheduling, she came to me this morning and said, Mr. Randolph, there are no more crazy ideas with the master schedule, right? No more classes that we're going to move, no more, but we're going to create this block for acceleration for these students. No more of that, because she's ready to lock in the master schedule. But shout out to Mary Bailey. She has been absolutely phenomenal just building our master schedule.
If you're doing that, I got to shout out Debbie Curry too, Dr. Curry. She does our master schedule like every day. Where are we at today? It was like 93%. She's ready to hand it off to the counselors. So I know that's a nerve wracking piece, especially, that's usually an AP job where they're handling that master schedule. And that's something that, it takes a lot of work, especially if we're scheduling our ESE students first. We're scheduling for acceleration. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces. Intensive
Cambridge.
Yep. Corrective reading. So those are things that you don't want too many hands in that pot, in that puzzle. So it's good to have those strong APs that are able to take care of it and tell, just like, yours is telling you, don't do anything crazy. No more crazy ideas. Yeah. We don't have enough time. Tell me, we touched a little bit about summer and pre-planning. Like, what are some things that you do? What's your philosophy for pre-planning week with your teachers?
That's a great question. And can I tell you, my philosophy has really evolved over the 8 years here at Leesburg High School. Early, I can tell you, day one, we were you were going to get 8 hours of professional development. We were going to set the tone instructionally. I felt good about that. We were going to come back the next day, reinforce that tone. As well. We're probably going to come back day 3 and do a little bit more reinforcing too. But if you really looked at it, we did not maximize our teachers' opportunities to be in the classroom and to really prepare. So we had some of our teachers feeling like, okay, we just spent a great week of learning, but I'm not ready to accept our students on Monday. So I really had to sit back and think, okay, a question that I asked my teachers at the end of pre-planning that I really had to ask myself was, how am I going to make students want to return on day 2? And I had to pause and ask myself that question. How am I going to make teachers want to return on day 2? If I'm burning my teachers and I am putting them in 8 hours professional development sessions on that first day back in a cafeteria with very hard chairs that's not very comfortable, it doesn't matter how much I feed them. They're not going to be happy. So, fast forward to year 8, day 1, we will have our breakfast. We'll have our department chair meeting, and then our teachers will have their time in the classroom all of day 1. We will do individual photos in the afternoon. Yeah. Day 2, we'll have another hour-long department meeting, and then our teachers will have the majority of the day in the classroom. They will not receive that instructional focus until day 3 from administration. And actually what we're doing is through our hive leaders, through our department chairs, they're going to set the instructional tone for the year so that now on Wednesday, we're going to come in and reinforce that tone as a whole school. So we found that going with that process last year, one, our teachers were significantly happier, which is a goal during pre-planning. You want your teachers smiling. You do not want your teachers feeling stressed. No matter what you do, they're going to be stressed, but you want to alleviate as much stress as possible.
Happy teachers, happy school, happy students.
Yes. Yes, and I promise you, day one, putting them in a 90-minute, in a 8-hour session in the cafeteria is not it anymore. And I
No.
had to learn that the hard way. And
No.
again, that's the nice thing. That's what I love about education is that you really have the opportunity to learn from your past experiences. So, if I didn't learn from that, I could have continued doing the same thing and had unhappy teachers going into the school year. And I can tell you, as someone who has lost a teacher in September, October, I have to reflect on, well, what atmosphere did I create to make that teacher want to return? Last year, very proud, we did not lose a teacher during those first 3 months of school, which again shows that we were able to set up and launch the year successfully and make our teachers feel good about going into the school year.
So that took some time though, figuring that it's like coaching. This season, this worked. Next season, it didn't. We thought about, and we've been pretty consistent. For me personally, I remember sitting in some of those pre-planning meetings, like, man, I really got stuff to do. I need to get my classroom. So we try and maximize all that time for our teachers to be planning, getting the room ready to go. We're feeding them, but then we're also like, we're doing, a couple meetings here or there. Tell them before we sit down, like, this is not what we expect to see when we go in the classroom. It's a lot of sit and get, but you guys are education. You guys are professionals. Here's all the stuff that I have to front load you with as far as the legislative updates. All the requirements that teachers have to do, a little scavenger hunt with their bloodborne pathogen, and now, a few other things, but trying to maximize that time. And I listen to my teachers more because number one, they're the experts. And then, number two, I want to make sure they're happy that, and we talked about maybe doing like no meetings the first day, but most of our department heads were like, no, let's just try and get us, we like how it's run. Let's do it that way. And then, we want to make sure we maximize that time for them. I think that's a big time tip for new principals and new leaders. Like, man, listen to your staff, make them a part of that. They're the ones that are going to, you may not always like what they have to hear, but hey, they're the ones that are responsible for the students and the learning and teaching. So you want to make sure you make them a part of that puzzle.
That was going to be my next question, and you segued perfectly into it. What's one pro tip, that you would give to an expert principal down to a rookie principal going into pre-planning?
Listen to your people. Identify who those key people are. Now you're going to have people that are going to always, be at your office door asking for something or telling you something. We all have those. I call them like my Tobies, if you're an Office fan. But find out who your key people are, and then you want to work with them. Listen to them. Like one thing for me, interviews, I'm never interviewing someone one-on-one. If it's a math teacher, I'm going to have our math department head in there, or one of my algebra or geometry teachers, because they're the ones that they're the experts in the field. So I think being humble in that regard and not thinking that you're going to be able to do it all yourself. And then, relying on if you're new to the role, relying on your assistant principals, not trying to do everything on your own. And that's not necessarily delegating everything, but it's also that shared responsibility and leadership.
And again, the goal of a principal is to grow other leaders as well. So if you're hoarding all of the work and all of the knowledge, then how are you growing APs and the future principals? So I know I was blessed to have leaders that really gave me the opportunity
100%.
to fail forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to dive into those opportunities and to, make sure to give me their expectations, but to also guide me along the way there. And again, that's something that I would tell all principals is just really, give your teachers the opportunity to be involved and truly collaborate with your school's mission and vision for the year as well. If you decide what that mission is, if you decide what that vision is for the year, then it's going to be you, right? It's hard to get ownership. It's hard to get buy-in when there's no collective efficacy. So that's a way to build that collective efficacy, just by having teachers a part of that process. So we're excited to get started with that. We're excited to get started with that once we get back. So
what do you have, like a teacher task force or a student task force, like those committees that are, because that's something I really want to do a better job of is with working with student leaders on campus formally, like an advisory council. So what's something you may do?
absolutely. So I don't have a formal advisory committee for my students. What we do is we have our student government they come to all of our SAC meetings as well. And they're active participants in our SAC meetings as well. Last year, we actually started expanding that to more club leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So our goal was to we invited a club, the head of every club on campus. Typically, we had about 20 to 25 students in the room for an SAC meeting, which is a good way to have your students there with your parents, there with your teachers, there with your community stakeholders to really talk about what's going on with the school. So that's something that we look at doing for our students there.
I like that.
And then for our teachers, we have our guiding coalition meeting, and again, building everything with our teachers first. We will be meeting with our teachers prior to pre-planning. We'll be meeting with our guiding coalition, our department chairs, and we'll push out our instructional focus to them to allow them to share that information with their teams as well, so that on Wednesday, we'll come back to reinforce that. So that meeting, that I believe that meeting is set for Wednesday, July 31st. It's a 2-hour meeting, but it's really the same meeting that I go through with my administration staff that I'll go through with the leadership of our teachers as well. And it's really diving into every single piece. I mean, talking about our bell schedule, talking about our acceleration schedule, talking about our master's schedule, talking about that first week of school and how important that first week of school is. So, and just creating those norms so that now our leaders can go and share those expectations with our teachers.
Especially if you have them leading the work at the start of it, it's important to have them involved.
Absolutely.
All right. So
what about you? How are you launching how do you get your teachers involved, especially during the summer? Because that's the tricky part.
Tough.
Is getting your
you
teachers
don't wanna,
involved during the summer.
And this is something that, is being at your school for a longer time. Like I do a lot of it. I'm not having formal meetings where I'm running things by them, whether it be a text message. We're interviewing in the summer. So a lot of them are coming in. Our teacher leaders are coming in and sitting in those interviews with us. I don't have like we had our formal admin meeting today, but really haven't had we have a formal department head meeting at the start of pre-planning. So it's kind of structured where we've been doing it these many years, again, because I want to make sure they're taking their time until we get back into pre-planning. And then, we've got a pretty good core crew of our department heads. And so it's nice that they can just feel like they can reach out and talk about those things. So yeah. Hey man,
so
go ahead.
I was going to say, we all have that one student who really helped us define our why and really kind of reshape our why. Can you share that story with us? What's the story of what personifies your why?
And I think when we talked about doing this podcast, it's all about your why. Why would you spend all the time, all the hours put it into this thing we call, leadership in high school and so on and so forth. So I had a student when I was at the alternative school. Prior to being at the alternative school, I was the athletic director at a high school here locally, and had you have those kids that don't necessarily always, they're not like getting in fights or they do stupid kind of piddly things here or there. And I had a kid who he was like kept getting in trouble. The teacher, who was two doors down from my office, would just send him down and talk to me or whatever. And so, I kind of developed a little bit of a relationship with him for a couple of years. And then fast forward, I'm the assistant principal at the alternative school, and I see this kid get off the bus. And the kid's like 6'6". He was a really good basketball player, but after his freshman year, he was ineligible, so he never got to really get involved back into that. So he got off the bus, and I was like, "Oh man, what?" I said, "Pull him aside. Like, what are you doing here? Like, what happened?" And he just had a certain number of referrals, just kept adding up. And it was kind of my goal. Like, and he put the work in and did it, but let's get him back to get you back to high school. Like, this isn't the end all be all for you. Like, let's get you back to your senior year where you're at your, back at your home school, eligible to play sports and do those things. So the kid, he worked hard, I got to go to his first varsity basketball game as a starter, got to go to his senior night, got to go to his college scholarship signing. So I think that's like my why, kind of seeing the whole process. Because when you think of alternative school, it's hard not to think like the bad kids but like those kids had a story, and every single one of us have done something at some point that may have got us to the alternative school. If trust me, if you say you're not, you're probably lying about it. But like, literally, those kids can't just be, we can't just throw them away. We got to find it. We got to find a way to get them where they need to be, whether that be, enlisted in the military, enrolling in college, or finding, seeking that gainful employment in a vocation. So, how about you? What's your student? What's your why?
Absolutely. So, in 2017, when I started at Leesburg High School, we had a 67% graduation rate. And we were really the school that everyone tried to avoid. Our advanced placement.
It was the school no one
passing,
wanted to go to. I think it was in the article.
Nobody wanted to go
Well,
to.
I'm gonna
right?
I'm gonna pause you for a second. I ran into a kid from Leesburg a couple years ago, and it's like a family from Leesburg, and it was just before you start, or like right when you started. And I asked like, oh, hey, one of my good friends just took a principal job down there at Leesburg High, and they're like, oh, yeah, it was kind of like, oh, good luck to them, But yeah, man, you keep.
Listen, we had a rough perception, very rough perception. So, and part of it was we had a 23% AP pass rate, 67% graduation rate, low test scores. There was a lot of apathy on our campus, and we didn't have those pillar programs academically, athletically, socially to really lean into. So when I started, we knew that we wanted to become a Cambridge A school. So we immediately started the process. We became a Cambridge A school in 2018. We launched our first cohort in 2018 with 42 students. We felt great. It was in 2020, that summer, going into the 2020-2021 school year, that I was challenged by one of our executive directors. And she said, Mike, I see what you're doing at Leesburg High School with Cambridge. That's outstanding. However, have you looked at your demographics of Cambridge and compared it to your school? And I said, no, ma'am, I have not. She said, I have. Why are you not providing this for every student at your school? So it really challenged me at that point to say, wait a second, I think Cambridge can be for all. And then that year was the year that we opened it up for all seniors to take Cambridge General Paper. And I'll never forget the young name. I won't call his last name, but Nate, you know who you are. But Nate was a football player. Nate did not love school. Nate was, right at a 2.2 GPA. And then I told him his senior year that I was taking away his English 4 class and putting him into a college credit earning class. He looked at me and with some choice words said, absolutely not, Mr. Randolph. And I said, nope, this is what we're doing. Every student's doing this. We believe in you. The only reason why we're doing this is because we believe in you. He was like, that's great, but I'm not graduation ready. Fast forward, we start, we prepare them, we do well, we feel good about preparing them. It's time to take the test. We go to take the test, and I remember Nate coming to me and saying, Mr. Randolph, I'm not going to sit for that test. And I said, Nate, you are. I said, Nate, you're prepared. I said, have you been at school? Yes. Have you done the work? Have you done the papers? Yes. Then you are prepared to go and earn 3 college credits. And Nate reluctantly went into day 1 of the test. I asked him after, how did it go? He said, I felt okay. He felt decent after it. I said, are you going to come back for day 2? He said, sure, I'll give it a try. He came back for day 2. I asked him after day 2, how do you feel? He said, Mr. Randolph, I actually knew some of that stuff. And I said, I know, because we prepared you with great appropriate texts and assignments, right? So fast forward, we get our results back. I find out that Nate earns 3 college credits. So I go and I pull him out of class, and he calls his father. And, I shared the video with our superintendent, and it's hilarious because it's not for the faint of heart. Mm-hmm. It's choice words there. But he was just so ecstatic to have earned those college credits and just how proud of him we were. So again, that's part of my why. And really, I know that was a little longer, but really providing an opportunity for every single student. That student with a 2.1 GPA, 2.2 GPA, just the idea that adults believe that they can achieve something greater than themselves, it's so powerful. And that's part of my why.
I agree. That's awesome. That's an awesome story. So what do you see with this podcast as we move forward? What are some things you want to talk about, or what are some, we got a list of people we want to talk to, but what are some things, like, what do you envision with this?
Really what I envision with this is just, like I said at the beginning, creating a space where leaders, community stakeholders, teachers, students can really share what's going on at their school, can share their best practices, and really learn from one another. I'm so fortunate to have the relationship with you that I do so that I can learn from you and that we can bounce ideas off of each other and all of our principal mentors that we have. I know you have a number of principal mentors as well. So just really creating a space where we can share best practices, share our day to day with each other. I was reading an article last week, and it really talked about how principals have done a great job of making their teachers feel like family, creating opportunities for their teachers to get together, making sure that their teachers are working in professional learning teams. How often do administrators have that opportunity to work in that professional learning team as well and really collaborate with each other? So my goal is to try to create a space where we can learn and grow from one another.
Perfect. Perfect. We're blessed to be where we're at, and it'd be nice to share those kind of things. So definitely looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to a great podcast, Talking Shop, a conversation with educational leaders. This is officially our first episode, so we are excited to launch our second episode later this week, where we are going to interview the proud principal of Umatilla High School, who is also the 2024 Florida State Principal of the Year, Brent Frazier. So we're excited to talk to Brent Frazier, to check out some things that he has going on at Umatilla High School. Until then, have a great day and go Jackets.
Go Broncos.